You are looking at a $3,000 luxury bag and a $30 pair of fast fashion jeans. They have absolutely nothing in common, except for the one tiny piece of metal holding them together. And if that little piece of metal fails, both of these items instantly become worthless garbage. Welcome to the terrifying reality of the global supply chain. Every single day you walk around with a silent, ruthless monopoly quite literally holding your pants up. I am talking about YKK, a Japanese behemoth that quietly manufactures over 10 billion zippers a year. That is enough interlocking metal to wrap around the earth 50 times over. They control half the global market by value, and almost 90% of the mid to luxury tier. But here is the multi-million-dollar question that keeps executives awake at night. Why do cutthroat brands like Gucci, Nike, and Zara, companies that will ruthlessly squeeze a factory for half a cent on cotton, absolutely refuse to buy their hardware from anyone else? Today, I am going to show you how this company hijacked a $3 trillion industry without anyone complaining. We will break down the false economy trap that bankrupts greedy business owners. And you will quickly realize why the most expensive financial lesson you will ever learn is currently sitting right below your belt. Let us talk about asymmetric risk. It is a fancy corporate finance term that basically asks a simple question. What is the absolute smallest, cheapest thing in your business that can cause the most catastrophic amount of financial damage? In the world of fashion, it is not the superstar designer. And it is certainly not the premium fabric. It is a 20-cent piece of interlocking metal teeth. Imagine for a second that you are a retail executive. You have just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. You have paid influencers who charge more for a 15-second TikTok dance than your entire accounting department makes in a year. You are selling a premium winter jacket for $500. Your gross margin is looking beautiful. You feel like a genius. But in order to save just 5 measly cents on manufacturing costs, you make a fateful decision. You decide to switch your zipper supplier from YKK to some random no-name factory because, hey, a zipper is a zipper. Right, wrong, the zipper is the only part of a garment that, when it breaks, drops the functional value of the entire product to absolute zero instantly. Think about it if a button falls off your shirt. You sew it back on if your sleeve frays. You just call it vintage. But if the zipper on your expensive winter jacket gets stuck on a freezing Tuesday morning, you are not wearing a jacket anymore. You are wearing a highly inconvenient $500 blanket, and you are furious. This brings us to the bizarre economics of the repair industry in 2026. The average cost for a tailor in the United States to replace a broken zipper is about $35 to $50. That process involves meticulously ripping out the old seam, buying a new zipper, which will probably be a YKK one anyway, and resewing it, which leads to a hilarious, yet tragic reality of modern consumerism. It is literally more expensive to fix the zipper on a pair of fast fashion jeans than it is to just throw them in the trash and buy a brand new pair. The failure of a 20-cent component single-handedly drives the throwaway culture of our generation. The zipper is the ultimate gatekeeper of the product's life cycle. And smart brands know this. They know that their customer acquisition cost might be $50. They spent $50 just to get you to click an ad and buy one item. Losing that customer forever because you wanted to save a nickel on hardware is like playing Russian roulette with a fully loaded gun. Imagine explaining this to your board of directors. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we successfully reduced our unit economics by 0.01%. Unfortunately, our return rate skyrocketed by 40%. And our Trustpilot rating is currently lower than a gas station's sushi restaurant. That is the true cost of the false economy. You optimize the pennies, only to watch the dollars burn to the ground. You see, a zipper is highly asymmetrical in its value proposition. It represents less than 1% of the manufacturing cost, but carries 100% of the functional risk. It is a lot like love, actually. Sometimes the only thing keeping a marriage from completely falling apart is one person remembering to take out the trash on time. Small effort, massive structural integrity. When you look at it this way, YKK is not in the business of selling metal and plastic. They are selling a highly discounted insurance policy against public humiliation and brand destruction. And the premium they charge is an absolute steal. So we have established that a broken zipper ruins a customer's day. But what does a broken zipper do to a company's balance sheet? It triggers a financial catastrophe known as the product recall equation. And this equation is the exact reason why chief procurement officers, who will aggressively negotiate the price of toilet paper in the office bathrooms, who will simply hand YKK a blank check and say, "Just give us the good stuff, let us do some basic math." Do not worry, it is the fun kind of math where someone else loses a lot of money. Let us pretend you are the CEO of a mid-sized apparel brand. You are producing a batch of 1 million winter jackets this season. A premium YKK zipper costs you, let's say, 25 cents. A competitor from a nameless factory offers you an identical-looking zipper for 20 cents. You pull out your calculator, a savings of 5 cents per unit. Across 1 million units, congratulations, you just saved $50,000. You feel like the Wolf of Wall Street. You are probably already picking out the color for your new Porsche. But here is where the math gets incredibly violent. Let us say that the cheaper zipper has just a 1% higher failure rate than the YKK standard. Just 1%. That means 10,000 of those jackets are going to have busted zippers. Now, what is the cost of processing a return in 2026? By the time you factor in the reverse logistics, the customer service labor, the shipping fees, and the absolute destruction of the garment's resale value, a conservative estimate is that a return costs the company at least $20 per item, often much more if it is a heavy winter coat. 10,000 broken jackets multiplied by $20 in processing costs equals a direct hit of $200,000 to your bottom line. You just spent $200,000 to save $50,000. First-grade math tells you that 50 grand is a nice saving. Behavioral economics tells you that you are about to get fired. And that $200,000 figure, that is just the direct, quantifiable cost. It does not include the invisible bloodbath of reputational damage. In the modern era of micro-anxiety and viral outrage, an angry customer does not just return the jacket. They go on TikTok. They film themselves struggling to get out of your defective jacket like they are trapped in a low-budget escape room. Your brand goes viral for all the wrong reasons. Your customer acquisition cost triples overnight because suddenly, everyone associates your logo with malfunctioning hardware. This is the trap of picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. You grab the shiny little coin and the next thing you know, your entire equity is flattened on the pavement. But hey, at least you got the 5 cents. Right? In B2B procurement, the golden rule is always to seek competitive bidding. You pit suppliers against each other to drive the price down. But with YKK, that rule is violently thrown out the boardroom window. There is a concept in economics called the O-ring theory. It is named after the tragic Space Shuttle Challenger disaster, which exploded because one tiny, cheap rubber seal failed. The theory states that in complex production processes, the value of the final product is entirely dependent on the quality of its weakest link. $1 billion space shuttle can be destroyed by a $10 piece of rubber. A $1 million fashion line can be destroyed by a 10-cent piece of metal. Space agencies and fashion designers both share the exact same paranoia. The universe and the runway are unforgiving environments. When the stakes are that high, nobody wants to be the guy who approved the cheap components. So the fashion industry has collectively agreed on a bizarre form of voluntary taxation. Every piece of clothing with a zipper you buy includes a tiny, invisible YKK tax. It is the only tax in the world that global citizens pay willingly and happily. Because the alternative is exposing yourself in public. The IRS should really take notes, so we know that brands are terrified of using anyone else. But what stops an ambitious competitor, say a massive manufacturing conglomerate in Shenzhen, from simply copying YKK's zipper design? After all, a zipper is not exactly quantum physics. It is just metal teeth locking together. This brings us to the most unhinged aspect of YKK's business model. A level of paranoia so extreme, it would make a CIA director tell them to calm down. In business school, they teach you about a concept called vertical integration. That is when a company buys its suppliers to control the supply chain. Apple does this by designing its own chips. Tesla does this by building its own batteries. But YKK takes vertical integration to a level of psychotic perfection. They do not just manufacture zippers, they manufacture the machines that manufacture the zippers. Let that sink in. They have their own secret engineering division dedicated entirely to building the proprietary equipment used in their factories. But wait, it gets crazier. They smelt their own brass. They forge their own polyester. They spin and twist their own thread. They weave the cloth tape that the metal teeth sit on. They even manufacture the cardboard boxes that they ship the final zippers in. Seriously, if YKK discovered that their employees could survive on photosynthesis, they would probably try to manufacture their own sun just to cut down on cafeteria costs. This is the ultimate invisible moat. Warren Buffett loves a company with an economic moat, a competitive advantage that protects it from rivals. But YKK's moat isn't just filled with water. It is filled with laser-equipped sharks, because they build their own machines. There are no patents to expire for competitors to copy. There are no external mechanics who know how to fix them. Even if a rival somehow managed to infiltrate a YKK factory and steal a machine, they wouldn't have the instruction manual, they wouldn't have the proprietary replacement parts, and they definitely wouldn't have the exact, custom-smelted alloy required to run it smoothly. Monopoly is when you control the market. True dominance is when your competitors literally cannot even comprehend how you are operating. This obsessive control eliminates the single biggest risk in modern manufacturing: third-party reliance. When the global supply chain collapsed a few years ago, when ships were stuck in the Suez Canal and microchip factories were shutting down, YKK just kept quietly churning out billions of zippers. Because they answer to no one, they have created a closed-loop dictatorship of quality. Compare this to the tech industry. We are constantly held hostage by the ecosystem. Apple forces you to buy their proprietary dongles at outrageous prices. YKK does the exact opposite. They trap you in their ecosystem by simply making a product so reliable, so utterly frictionless, that you become too lazy to ever look for an alternative. It is the difference between keeping someone in a cage and building a hotel so comfortable they never want to leave. And this brings us to the irony of modern greenwashing. You will see fast fashion brands aggressively marketing their new 100% organic, recycled Save the Turtles cotton t-shirts, but right down the middle of that eco-friendly, biodegradable garment is a strip of indestructible YKK polyester and brass. Your jacket might be saving the planet, but that zipper is going to outlive you, your children, and probably the turtles it was trying to save. They have engineered a piece of hardware that is practically immortal, and they did it by trusting absolutely no one but themselves. So we have a company that controls half the global market, dictates terms to luxury giants, and possesses an impenetrable technological fortress. By all conventional business logic, governments around the world should be kicking down their doors. Where are the antitrust lawsuits? Where are the Senate hearings demanding they break up the zipper cartel? They don't exist. YKK has mastered the ultimate financial camouflage. The silent monopoly, they operate right out in the open, stamped on the crotch of billions of pairs of pants. Yet they remain entirely invisible to regulators. How do you build a monopoly without the government sending in the lawyer? Rule number 1, never sell directly to the end consumer. Governments get angry when monopolies squeeze everyday voters. When pharmaceutical companies hike the price of insulin, people riot, but YKK is strictly business to business. The general public never receives a bill from them. Rule number 2, and this is the financial genius of it all: keep your profit margins painfully, boringly low. This is a strategy known as limit pricing. YKK could easily double the price of their zippers tomorrow. Brands would complain, but ultimately they would pay it, because the fear of the recall equation is too strong. But YKK doesn't do that. They keep the price of a standard zipper hovering around 20 to 50 cents. Their profit margin on those basic units is razor thin. They make their billions purely on unimaginable, earth-shattering volume. If you look at a 20-year chart of YKK's pricing, it is virtually a flat line. It looks exactly like the heart rate monitor of an accountant. Completely devoid of emotion, entirely predictable, and incredibly boring. By artificially suppressing their own profit margins, YKK effectively destroys the incentive for anyone else to enter the market. If an ambitious tech bro decides to disrupt the zipper industry tomorrow, he will look at the startup costs of building a factory, compare it to the microscopic pennies of profit YKK makes per unit, and immediately pivot back to making another useless crypto app. They have priced the market so aggressively low that competing with them is financially suicidal. And this leads to a fascinating psychological phenomenon in modern branding. Ingredient branding. Usually a brand wants to hide its suppliers. They want you to believe the magic was created entirely in-house by an eccentric visionary in Milan. But with YKK, we see the exact opposite. You will see small, up-and-coming streetwear startups deliberately zoom in on the YKK logo on their zippers in their Instagram ads. They are openly advertising a third-party manufacturer's logo to validate their own product. It is the fashion equivalent of slapping a Ferrari sticker on a bicycle. It does not make the bike go faster, but it desperately signals that you care about quality. They are borrowing YKK's 50 years of unblemished reputation just to convince you that their $60 hoodie won't disintegrate in the wash. That is raw, unadulterated power. when your own customers use your name to sell their products. You have transcended being a mere vendor. You are an institution. But here is where the story pivots, because this isn't really a story about zippers. We have spent the last 12 minutes laughing at fashion executives and marveling at a paranoid Japanese manufacturing empire. But YKK is just a mirror, and what it reflects back at us is our own deeply flawed relationship with risk. Money and decision-making. Look at your own business. Look at your own career. How many times have you played the false economy game? We spend weeks agonizing over the exact color hex code of a logo, or the aesthetic design of a business card. But then we hire the cheapest, most unqualified accountant to handle our cash flow, just to save a few $100 a month. We launch a tech startup with a massive marketing budget, but we decide to run the entire platform on the cheapest, unverified server hosting we can find. And when the site inevitably crashes on launch, burning through thousands of dollars in ad spend per minute, we sit there and wonder why we failed. You did not fail because your grand vision was bad. You failed because you built $1 million mansion on a foundation of cheap toothpicks. You see, in 2026, the barrier to entry for starting a business is practically zero. Anyone can create a polished brand facade in an afternoon. But a facade does not hold a structure together when the pressure hits. The zipper on a jacket does not matter when it is hanging safely on a mannequin in a climate-controlled retail store. It only matters when you are outside in a freezing blizzard, and the wind is actively trying to tear you apart. That is the exact moment you realize what you actually paid for. You can wrap your entire enterprise in million-dollar marketing campaigns. You can secure massive funding rounds and luxury branding. But if you aggressively cheap out on the tiny, unglamorous, boring details that are supposed to hold everything together, when the cold wind of the market finally blows, you will be left standing there completely exposed. And trust me, it will not be a good look. So I want you to go down to the comments right now and be brutally honest. What is the zipper in your life or your business? What is that one tiny, incredibly cheap thing you are actively ignoring that has the power to destroy everything else? Drop it below, let us see who is walking on the thinnest ice. And do me a favor, share this video with that one friend who always buys the cheapest power supply for their $3,000 gaming PC. You might just save their house from burning down. As for me, I am going to double-check my pants to make sure my YKK zipper is still doing its job. See you next time.